by his girlfriend just posted on the internet by his girlfriend just last week. This is Senzo Meyiwa as his fans loved him. Captain and goalkeeper for his club and country, this was a young man in his prime. But now South Africa is in mourning. Police say he was shot last night during what appears to be an attempted burglary. He was at his girlfriend's home south of Johannesburg when two men entered the property. One waited outside, and after Senzo was shot, all three fled. In an unusual move, South African police took to Twitter to break the news. "We have to break normal protocol," they wrote. "We can confirm that Bucks keeper Senzo Meyiwa has been shot."
Well, the police say, according to the neighbors, three men came into a house where Senzo Meyiwa was. He was at his girlfriend's house, Kelly Khumalo. Two men came inside, started demanding goods and valuable cell phones, etc. And when Senzo was trying to defend Kelly, who apparently the gun was being pointed at, he was shot in the back. And unfortunately, the shot was fatal.
South Africa has a high rate of violent crime, but it's not clear why Senzo was shot. The incident comes just days after Paralympic star Oscar Pistorius was jailed for 5 years for shooting dead his girlfriend. Tributes are being paid to Meyiwa from fellow footballers. Doncaster and Bafana Bafana midfielder Dean Furman said, "Beyond devastated at the loss of our captain and friend. Thoughts and prayers are with his family and friends at this terrible time." Amongst the other thousands of tributes online, one from a fan simply said, "Forever my captain. R.I.P. Senzo." Joe Tidy, Sky News. Posted on.
Good morning, Masterminds, and welcome to another edition of The Real Masterminds. Today we are going to complete the cell phone record evidence. And Njabulo is going to tell us actually why did he play that clip for us. So Masterminds, you know what to do when you come in the house. Please like, subscribe, and share our content so that everyone can see what is actually happening in this country, what is happening in our courts. Good morning, Njabulo. Can you please tell us what that clip was about?
Good morning, Sis Pet and Real Masterminds. Masterminds, the clip that we played there is you saw Senzo singing his lung out.
Epic.
You understand? Yes. And he was singing his girlfriend's song, his lung out. Now, what we're trying to do, we're trying to build the last account of the incident as of 2014, what the media was saying. Clearly on that video clip, we are seeing a media, which is BBC in this instance, trying to paint that Meyiwa was in love until the last moment. Now that goes in line with the statement, which even on the very next day, that Senzo died when he was trying to save his girlfriend. And you could have seen on the clip as well that most of the pictures that were seen on Senzo, he was on a full stretch saving a ball. Now, we also know that in one of the interviews, still fresh in 2014, Kelly said, "He took a bullet for me. He dived in front." You see, there's a name, Sispet, that was mentioned. He dived in front. How does one dive in front of the gun when there was a scaffold?
Yes.
How does one dive in front of the gun if Senzo is fighting with a short man. How does one dive in front of the gun when Steenekamp tells us that when he was shot, entry wound was from the front? It looks like the person who did the shooting was also tall because of the angle that it went on. But then also, when we're thinking about the person who's diving in front of the bullet of the gun's spit, then will it be possible then that as the person is diving full stretch, bullet will come through the chest and go down and exit as it would this thing, the route that the doctors have explained on the X-ray? Of course, it won't be possible. Now, what was the role of the media since after 2014? Was the media in accounts to try and make sure that they are spreading the correct information, creating awareness of what really has happened? Was it a real reflection of the account of what transpired on the 27th in that Spaza shop, 2014? While we're at that, we now are experiencing, suspect, a court proceedings, which then now going to unpack a technical roadmap using a cell phone record to go back to 2014 to hear what was happening. Now I'm going to try and play the video clip, which is one of the Newsroom Africa. They're interviewing one of the journalists of the court record after Pinky Vitalingham has testified. So let me try and play that, suspect, so that once we started talking, we can flow. Let's just see. Can you see my screen?
Yes, I can see.
Vitalingham has told the court about cell phone tower locations and movement on the night that Senzo Meyiwa was killed. The state claims one of Kelly Khumalo's phones were stolen by intruders who entered her mother's Vosloorus home and fatally shot her then-boyfriend. 5 men are on trial for the 2014 murder, which the state claims is or was a botched robbery. Linda Mnisi joining us in studio right now for a quick look at what we have heard from this trial thus far. Linda, good evening to you. Let's start with the cell phone tower and what it tells us before we get to Kelly Khumalo's runaway phone. Let's start with the towers. What is the forensic expert painting a picture here of?
So essentially, Xoli, she has been painting a picture around where the phones were and where they pinged, particularly on the day that Senzo Meyiwa was killed. And it actually leads me to your next question about the runaway phone. You'll remember that the state is essentially saying that on the night that Senzo Meyiwa was killed, there were intruders who also robbed one of Kelly Khumalo's phones. They took one of Kelly Khumalo's phones, but they also say that the alleged intruders, after the commission or the alleged commission of the crime, they went back to a Vosloorus hostel. Now, leading evidence on the towers of that phone that was stolen, they asked Pinky Vitalingham to tell the court about where that particular phone pinged in the evening of that particular day. Let's take a listen to what they had to say.
Now let us move to a number associated with Kelly Khumalo, ending Colonel Stein on Exhibit O has already testified that was the runaway phone.
Yes.
Are you able to tell the court the towers this phone picked in the evening of the 26th of October 2014?
On the evening of 26th October at 17:16, the tower parquet was picked up. You would then find GPRS data at 17:26 on the 26th of October. We get Spruit View. At 18:05, we get an undefined. At 19:16, we get Spruit View. And at 21:52, we get Mololeki.
All right. So one of the other things.
Let me just stop there because we're going to continue with that. I did say that we're trying to unpack what the media is saying, what the media is reporting to the South Africans. Now, you've heard that they spoke about a cell phone that was off the previous day, had not received any call. And we've also heard of a cell phone which was a runaway phone. On the evidence that we have, that we've tried to unpack, was that now it appears as if when witnesses are talking in court, they making reference of about 3 cell phones that belongs to Kelly. But then they are talking about 2 phones, because we are told about the BlackBerry phone, but Pinky Vitalingham has not told us which number was the BlackBerry phone using. Then he says that now it's a runaway phone. Remember, now it's a runaway phone that picks up these towers that we spoke about, and it ends up in Mololeki. Suspect we've done an analysis before, and we've played the clip where Mshololo is asking Musia on his logbook, and Musia is also at the same time around 11 o'clock in Mololeki, where this runaway phone last pinged. And Musia again is the same person that has come to court and said he's the one person that took all the exhibits in the house, put them in a seal bag, then gave it to Colonel Netling. Now, do you see that now the runaway phone is at the same place as Mololeki Tower, where Musia had confirmed that he was at the same place?
Yes.
Now, but on the accused persons, we don't hear anything on the accused persons. We don't hear anything about them being around their phones, at least, then being around Mololeki Tower. But anyway, people are going to say, no, but Brigadier Kininda says he only realized that if the people ran due to cell phone forensic evidence, it says went to the hostel. That means now the vehicle also went to the same hostel.
Yes.
Now, what does that mean? So it means that when you're trying to understand the cell phone evidence, it's not in line with what Vodacom is telling us what has actually transpired. Or Vodacom representative is not being honest in what she's talking about, because she ought to have clarified few things there. This is what suspect that she should have clarified. That a runaway phone was a type of phone. If it's a Samsung, you will have said clearly it's a Samsung phone. Yes, the IMEI number with the full 15-digit number, not a 14-digit IMEI number. Then she will have told us that that phone had this SIM card. Simple. We'll leave it. Then we go to the next phone of Kelly Khumalo, which now Steyn is the phone that he talks about. But now the phone that Steyn talks about, it's the phone that we now know that it's not a BlackBerry phone, but it's a ZTE phone.
Yes.
But then now, how is it that Vodacom representative will come to court and tell us about BlackBerry, BIS BlackBerry around Muleleki Tower at about 17:16 in the afternoon? Which phone was that? Because Steyn said Kelly had two phones. One phone is a Samsung S4, which was stolen. It's a runaway phone. The other phone started being a BlackBerry, but then now when we hear what Steyn is reading out on the IMEI number, we then realize that that's a phone, is a ZTE, of which Captain Mushwana talks about it when he's saying on the list of phones that he downloaded. Amongst those list of phones that Mushwana downloaded is the two phones that we can associate it with Kelly. It's a ZTE phone as well as the BlackBerry. Now, again, we're seeing here, it's either the media doesn't understand this case, or they're just deliberately in a mission to mislead South Africa. Because media is the same people that they're supposed to be probing, asking these very same questions. These are times like this, Spet, where we miss Deborah Pat.
Yes.
We miss Mzilikazi wa Africa 1.0, not 2.0. Mzilikazi wa Africa 1.0, not 2.0. Because the 1.01 was rogue and was a journalist. And Spet, we're going to continue with the clip, because you will hear the news anchor there, Koli. You could see that he wants to hear things. But then from the journalist, it's not coming.
Do we actually still have investigative journalists? Because in this case, we have journalists who are sitting in court listening to what they have been told in court, and they report it exactly as that. They don't do their own investigations. There's what I'm seeing. Because what I see every day is journalists sitting in court and reporting exactly what they receive in that court without even go and confirm the information or doing their own research on the information that they receive.
Yeah. That's, well, I would say we still do have them. We still do, because there is one case that recently one guy actually exposed certain issue about the person was branding the country as this country that is busy making difficult for white communities. So I believe that we still have investigative journalists. I think some journalists, like example, even Griselda Lois, she's very honest. And also there's this other guy also, is it Gog? Not Gog, the other one is now on E-News, is also very transparent. Nisi, I think Nisi probably is still growing, probably. He still has his mistakes. I don't want to go after him. He still has his mistakes. It's just that because this case is very emotional, we catch easily when we see a person that whom we trust, is entrusted with a lot of responsibility, where we expect more from him. It's not that we're going after them because we hate them. It's because we like them so much, we expect more from them.
And
now, yes.
Okay. And we are here as podcasters to give another perspective of what the media is bringing out.
Yes. Now, let's continue, Suspect.
Things that she was asked was about Senzo Meyiwa's phone. Was there a point where the stolen phone and Senzo Meyiwa pinged at the same location that evening? And what she tells the court essentially is that there was a point where both those phones pinged at the same tower, and she particularly focuses around 7 o'clock. Now, you'll remember that the state alleges that at around 7, 8 o'clock, that's when Senzo Meyiwa was actually killed. They then zoom into the tower locations of Senzo Meyiwa's phone and how long it pinged in that particular location. She's looking at around, 10 to 6, right up until 21:55, just before 10 minutes before 10 o'clock. It then changes its location to clinics. You remember, state witnesses have told the court that after Senzo Meyiwa was shot.
Now, you see, this is what I like about media, because media is actually helping us to understand certain things. They may have been eloquent to describe what is happening in court, but listen to this thing, Suspect. He is saying there, at one point, both a runaway phone as well as the phone of Senzo Meyiwa. So it means that at all the time, Senzo was with Kelly. Now, what is strange is that the state wants us to believe that in this instance, Senzo did not leave the phone at Kelly's and go to Mahamus's party, or Kelly did not leave the phone with Senzo and go to Malbatin. Now, the state wants us to believe that because they are pushing a narrative that we must believe that the phone was with Senzo and the phone was with Kelly. So, therefore, they are together. But when you see the same instance on the accused person, they are quick to say, no, it's only the device that we see at George Koch, not the accused person. Do you understand? But on that clip, Suspect, Mnisi talks about what Pinky says. Remember now, the journalist is saying, this is what happened in court. Is the Vodacom specialist. Ne? Vodacom specialist says, the phone was pinging at the same location up until 21:55. So if they're saying that the phone was so it means that the phone was in the house at the spaza shop up until 5 to 10. That's when 5 to 10 it starts to ping at clinics. But then we're being told that Senzo was only certified dead. Where? At 9:15. Now, this is where I'm trying to expose this part, Suspect. We need to be very gentle when we're dealing with this matter, because it might be a bit sensitive for people, but let me deal with it directly. We now have evidence in court that tells us that Senzo's phone received a call at about 21:16, and the tower that it pulled was around Clinics Hospital. And that call was never answered. Then you have an instance where Zandi tells the court that Senzo's phone was found under the stove when they were coming back from the hospital. Then we have instance in court where Ramsipili was putting a version to one of the witnesses and saying, we know that Zandi, this is what Zandi told this court. And Baloyi objected, says, no, we're not surprised by that Zandi statement because we believe that Zandile had another ulterior motive. But then it doesn't make anything better for Advocate Baloyi's pet. It makes things even worse. Because if you're saying that you are aware that you're going with the narrative that the phone was already in hospital at 10:15. Now, the people who were in hospital, they are telling us that No, they only came back just before midnight. Now, if you look at that, we can just give them a time at 11:30. Let's give them 11:30.
After, yeah.
But the 11:30, we have a problem with it because Musia, in his own log, he says around that 11-ish or so, he was around Moleleki. But he came to court and told the court that when he was arriving in the crime scene, he took all the people and put them in a bedroom.
Yes, yes.
Now, what the journalists will not tell us, or what Pinky Vitalingham told us, is that even after 12 midnight, the phones were pinging along somewhere in the areas towards Johannesburg. But Steyn and Mushwana tells us that he started downloading the phone around 12 midnight.
Yes.
And then Steyn said all that he knows, that anything after 12 midnight, the phones were already with the police.
There's a clip that I'm going to send you now regarding the times of Musia, and that sergeant, the first one who testified, was one of the police officers who arrived at home and said they didn't find people at her house. Let me send you that clip. You are going to play that clip. It's exactly regarding the times when he said he made his statement at 10 o'clock at night, saying at 10 o'clock, in his statement, he said at 10 o'clock at night, he said Musia already collected everything in the house. So now, he was asked.
The hospital, she
said.
Play it. Yes, no, we can speak.
No, we can play it. We can play it.
I'm trying to send it to
your device.
Yes.
So now this one is also confirming to what you are saying about the times, because the times are not corroborating in Gininda's words.
Yes. You see, they have a big problem there, suspect. They definitely have a big problem there. So we don't know how the police are actually going to deal with this matter.
What we want to do, we might not know how the police is going to deal with the matter, but we want the defense to challenge this evidence. Already is on a record. It has been challenged before in the form of that clip that I just sent you. So the defense must just keep on hammering on that, because nothing makes sense.
Yes, let's just see if I'm able to share that particular clip you said. Let's just see entire window.
We have 10 minutes.
Okay, let's just see. Can you see?
Yes.
Let's just see.
Gentleman that was there, the hospital, she said the crash belonged to him.
You also told this court that as a confirmation that you made a statement at about 2200 hours that night.
Nokuthi statement wasenza ngo-10 ebusuku. Yeah. Yes.
You also told this court that Constable Musia arrived between 2300 hours and 12 midnight.
Watsho nokuthi ke uMsiya wafika phakathi kuka-11 no-12 ebusuku. Yeah. Yes.
If you had made your statement, I just want to make sense of this. If you had made your statement at about 2200 hours and Musia arrives around 2300 hours to 12 midnight, why do you say in your statement that Constable Musia took the head and the bullet projector? If you had completed your statement at about 2200 hours and Musia arrived later?
Uma ukuthi umsiya wafika phakathi ko-11 no-12 nanjengoba usho nokuthi wena-ke istatement sakho wasibhala noma wasibhala-ke ngo-10 ebusuku. Kwenzeka kanjani-ke ukuthi istatement sakho ubhala ukuthi umsiya wathatha isigqoko kanye necrash?
If he had arrived at about 2300 hours to 12 later.
Uma kuwukuthi afika ngalesikhathi osishoyo.
Ukufika kukamsiya kusuke yonke into esiyitholile esinini izothathwa wuye.
On Msia's arrival, everything that we had gathered or that we had found in the scene was going to be taken by him.
So as long as esebonile ukuthi khona ini nani esinini, so siyazi ukuthi yonke into izosuke izothathwa wuye.
As long as he had seen as to what it is that was on the scene, and that then says that everything was going to be taken or be removed by him.
Sergeant, you are not answering my question. Do you want me to repeat it?
Is it material? Tell me. In taking statements, is it material?
It is material, my lord.
Yeah, like you say, look, in your statement, you never wrote in your statement that you opened the house. But in his statement, he says, before he and Matebula left for the hospital, they told Themba Khumalo to lock the house. Really? Are you with me? Now,
I'm with you. I'm with you.
The witness is being excoriated that he never said, you opened the house for us, we came in.
In the sense, my lord, in the sense that some of the things were found later.
Yeah, but how does it change his evidence? Let's read the case of State versus Mafaladiso, 2013. It says courts must be wary of allowing counsel to quote snippets of statements. You know that?
No, I know.
You're going to read the whole statement to get the essence of the statement. Now the guy has left out, well, he never said you opened it.
Pat, I need to stop sharing.
You can stop it then, Jabs. We're almost out of time. Now, do you see how the judge is now coming in there and becoming a witness again? Because now he doesn't want that avenue to be explored.
Yes. So, people, that's the evidence of cross-examination, 15 August 2023, Advocate as Tulele Nxumalo, exposing one of the first respondents. You see, what is critical there, is Pat, like when you are giving me the clip, it's the time issue. Now, if Pinky Vitalingham is saying that Senzo's phone is pinging at 10 o'clock in hospital, but this first respondent, they're telling us that they got a call before 9 o'clock. They went to the crime scene. Then they realized people have left for hospital. We now know that Senzo is certified dead in hospital around 9:15. And then we know that now when they're in hospital, they wanted to see the body. Then they decided that then the crime scene is that side. Now, if he's saying that Musia only got there around 2300, how is it possible that Musia gets there around 2300, but in Musia's logbook around 2300 is in around Moleleki extension 1? But then also suspect is that he says that he already found the projectile, but we know the projectile that it's only found when Mhlahlo arrives on the crime scene.
As the days goes by, We will expose, we will come back, we will challenge that evidence, and we hope the defense lawyers will do the same. Because everyone is saying whatever he wants in that court, and we are expected to take it as gospel. We cannot.
Yes. We will definitely suspect, because this particular clip, it's more like advocate Nxumalo versus Rata. When Rata deliberately introduced a case which doesn't have material things, yes, it's defending the witness. The judge is jumping into the gallery. What was his business when Nxumalo says, witness, you have not answered my questions? I'm saying to you, how did you write in your statement where else the bullet has not been found at this time, if you're saying you completed your statement at this time?
And your statement is supposed to be, as a police officer, you must. As a judge, you must. Your statement is supposed to be a true reflection of what happened, because that statement is going to be used in a court of law. You cannot come later and the judge will now assist you to change your statement, to suit the narrative. It cannot happen. And so many cases are collapsing in court because of statements that are not a true reflection of what actually happened at that crime scene. And Judge, we are going to stop it here. Next time when we come back, remember I was challenged by someone calling himself Selo Twala, and he said, I must leave his brother alone, his brother. We'll come back with that later. Let me not even dwell into that.
Right.
Let's talk later. Masterminds, please like, share, like, subscribe, and share our content so that we can come back again and analyze all the evidence that have been laid in court. Until later. Jobs, we must try to do later tonight. We must try to do a live. Okay.
All right.
See
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Bye.
Bye.